factory job for high school graduates are the bottom of the line. At this reception full of elites, there's no way there's a seat for poor people like you. Honestly, I'd rather cut ties with you." Sarah and Brian arrogantly looked down on us as a couple. Their belief that high school graduates can't earn a decent living prompted Alex, usually so calm, to speak up.
"Well then, let's agree to remain strangers for life. But let me share the truth with you."
Sarah and Brian, upon learning the truth about us, their faces turned pale, their eyes widened, and their expressions stiffened in shock. "I'm Samantha Johnson, 33 years old. I got married to my husband Alex 5 years ago. We met through a lunch sale. I'm good at cooking. After graduating from high school, I attended culinary school, worked in the restaurant industry for a few years, and then started a food truck selling lunchboxes with my friend. Our lunchboxes, packed with a variety of simple homemade flavors, were relatively popular. When we parked near office areas or industrial zones, we often had long lines. That's when Alex became one of our customers. It seemed he didn't cook for himself, and he really liked the food from our food truck. As a regular, he got to know me, one of the sellers, and that led to us dating. After a year of dating, he proposed to me. When I brought him to my parents' house to introduce him as my partner, they were absolutely thrilled. That's because Alex is polite and has a kind, approachable demeanor. Perhaps his gentle personality is connected to his upbringing.
Well, Samantha, you're lucky to marry someone as outstanding as Alex.
My dad said this with a smile as he looked at us. At that moment, there was a commotion near the front door. "I'm home. Mom, are you here?" Walking into the living room was my older sister, Sarah, who is 2 years older than me. The moment Sarah saw Alex, she didn't even bother to say hello and only asked Mom for what she needed. "Oh, is there a guest? Anyway, Mom, do you know where my passport is?" Seeing this, Dad spoke up to reprimand her.
Hey, Sarah, at least say hello to our guest. This is Alex, Samantha's partner.
"Samantha's getting married? Congrats. So, Alex, what do you do for work?" As Alex tried to introduce himself again, he said,
"Nice to meet you, Sarah. I'm Alex. I'm engaged to Samantha. I work at a factory."
Before he could finish, Sarah interrupted. "Wait, he works in a factory? So he's poor, right? Samantha, you're marrying someone like that?" Without hearing the rest of Alex's explanation, Sarah spoke condescendingly. "What's your highest level of education?"
"I graduated high school."
When Alex answered politely, Sarah said, "High school? I think this is my first time meeting someone like that. If it were me, I'd choose an elite from a prestigious university for a husband." Well, I guess that suits plain old Samantha. Alex didn't show much surprise, nor did he lose his composure. He's a remarkably calm person. However, Dad didn't like Sarah's attitude and scolded her.
Can't you at least greet him properly? Alex is a fine man.
But Sarah didn't change her demeanor. "Anyway, Mom, where's my passport?" "Sarah, are you going somewhere? Another overseas trip?" "Yeah, I am. My temp job contract ended yesterday, so I figured I'd use the money I saved up and take a big trip. So I'm heading abroad." "Yes, Sarah was the type to act on impulse and had a flair for flashy things. Today, she's wearing a brightly colored dress and heavy makeup. She chose temporary jobs specifically to have the flexibility to move around whenever she wanted. Once she earned enough money, she would spend it on expensive designer items or travel, living life the way she wanted. To someone like Sarah, who simply graduated high school, attended trade school, and started working, must seem like an ordinary, unremarkable person. She's always looked down on me for it. And this time, she didn't just belittle me, but also look down on Alex, my partner, simply because he works at a factory. However, Alex didn't get angry at Sarah at all. A year later, we successfully held our wedding. I decided to quit the food truck business after getting married and dedicate myself to supporting Alex. The wedding day was blessed with beautiful weather, and we were delighted to be surrounded by my family, friends, and well-wishers. However, Sarah was nowhere to be seen. It turned out she had gone on another overseas trip. Of course, we had informed her of my wedding date in advance, and since she's family, we naturally thought she'd attend. But Sarah had secretly left for an overseas trip without telling anyone. When asked later about her reasons, Sarah reportedly said,
"Well, it's a wedding with a factory worker, right? Weddings are supposed to be a great place for single women to meet people. But at your wedding, there'd only be poor folks, right? There's no chance of meeting a decent guy, and spending money on a gift would be such a waste. So I figured it'd be better to go abroad and find a handsome man."
In other words, she decided to go abroad because she couldn't look for her ideal partner at the wedding and didn't want to spend money on a gift, thinking she might have a better chance of meeting a handsome man overseas. Whenever acquaintances or friends asked about Sarah's absence, I struggled to answer and ended up saying she was unwell. Everyone was kind and offered their sympathy. I felt genuinely sorry for misleading them. But I told Alex the truth. Even then, Alex didn't get upset. Well, he likely understood Sarah's free-spirited nature from their first meeting. After that, Sarah went off the radar for a while. She did get in touch occasionally, so we weren't overly worried. But her carefree lifestyle likely made her forget basic courtesies during significant moments. 3 years into our marriage, Sarah suddenly returned home and announced she was getting married. For our parents, who had started worrying about her future, it was welcome news. Her partner was coming to meet the family, so I was also at our parents' house that day. The man who arrived was the same age as Sarah and wore a well-tailored suit. He had wavy, permed hair and glasses, giving him a unique appearance. While my parents stepped out for a moment, the man introduced himself briefly to me.
"You must be Sarah's sister, Samantha, right? Nice to meet you. I'm Brian. I graduated from college and work in sales for a food company."
As soon as Brian introduced himself, Sarah jumped in eagerly.
"Did you hear that? He's a college grad from one of the top universities. Isn't that amazing? And get this, his siblings are also graduates from the same prestigious school. I met him during one of my overseas trips. Now I get to join an elite family too. Brian, this is my sister, Samantha. You know, the one I told you about. She's married to a factory worker who only graduated high school."
"Where's your husband?"
He's at work today. He's been pretty busy lately.
They say poor people are always busy, don't they? And look at what Sarah is wearing today. So plain. It must be tough having a partner who didn't go to college.
Seeing Sarah in her flashy dress and equally loud nail polish, I couldn't help but respond. Sarah, that's really rude. And by the way, he's not poor.
Did he change jobs? Well, I guess factory work doesn't pay much, does it?
Sarah gave me a pitying look. No, he hasn't changed jobs, but
I thought so. With just a high school diploma, it's not like he has many options, unlike college grads. So, are you saying he's not poor, even on a low salary? We're family, Samantha. You don't have to pretend.
Sarah laughed and continued to look down on both me and Alex. When our parents returned, Sarah's arrogant attitude finally settled down. 6 months later, it was Sarah's wedding day. Alex and I arrived at the venue together and went to check in at the reception. However, the receptionist looked troubled as they checked the guest list. It seemed that our names were nowhere to be found. Excuse me, could it be that our names aren't on the list? We're Sarah's sister and brother-in-law.
Oh. Let me check with Sarah. This might be a mistake. Could you please wait a moment?
The staff member headed to the dressing room. After a while, Sarah appeared in her wedding dress, accompanied by Brian. Her long hair was beautifully styled, and her makeup was done so perfectly that it gave her a somewhat stern appearance.
Sarah, it's been a while. Congratulations on your big day.
Alex said politely. Sarah, what's going on? It seems our names aren't on the guest list. Was there some sort of mistake? Sarah smiled sweetly and replied,
No, it's no mistake.
What?
Well, today is our wedding. Brian's family are all college graduates from prestigious universities, and our friends and acquaintances are all elites too. Not to mention, colleagues and bosses from elite companies are here as well. There's no way I could let a poor high school graduate factory worker couple attend an event full of elites. So, I took your names off the guest list at the last minute.
What are you saying? Sarah, we're family. And now you're telling us we can't attend. You've got to stop looking down on us just because he works at a factory. Besides, he's... As I tried to explain, Sarah interrupted me.
Nothing you say will change my mind. A factory worker? That's the bottom of the ladder in society. If such poor people sat on the family side, it would be embarrassing for us. There's no way they could hold a conversation with elites. That would humiliate us. So, I deliberately made sure there was no seat for you. But hey, I'll gladly take your wedding gift, so just go home now.
Sarah berated Alex and me as if she and Brian were superior beings. Brian, instead of stopping her, stood there smirking, looking at us with pity. Like Sarah, he seemed to look down on high school graduates. Gradually, the eyes of some guests around us began to focus on our conversation. I looked down and thought, we came all this way to celebrate her wedding, so why do we have to be humiliated like this? Just because they went to a prestigious university, does that define a person's worth? That's ridiculous. There's no reason for them to look down on Alex and me. I need to make that clear. When I resolved myself and looked into Alex's eyes, it seemed he understood my determination. Alex glanced at Sarah and Brian and said,
It seems we're not welcome here. Should we leave?
Yes. After being treated like this, I don't think we can maintain any family relationship.
That's right. So, are we agreeing to be strangers from now on?
Absolutely. It might be better not to have poor people like you in the family anyway.
Who knows when you might ask us for money?
They continued to insult us without hesitation. Just then, my dad came rushing over after learning about our exchange.
What on earth are you all doing here? Everyone is watching.
Dad, I was just cutting ties with this poor Samantha and Alex. Now our family won't have the embarrassment of a high school graduate anymore. Isn't that great, Dad?
Sarah spoke with a smug expression. At that, my dad, trembling with rage and his face bright red, shouted,
You fools. What do you think you're doing? Do you even know who Alex is?
What?
He's the president of Johnson Foods Corporation.
The president? Alex? But he said he works at a factory.
It was as if question marks were floating above Sarah and Brian's heads. Even Brian, a graduate of a prestigious university, seemed unable to grasp the situation, standing there with his mouth agape.
Yes, it's true that my workplace is a factory. There's a separate office building for administrative staff, but I go to the site every day to ensure I can perform quality checks at any time.
What?
Yes, Alex is actually the president of a food company. Even I didn't realize he was the president before we got married. He always interacted casually with both employees and suppliers, never giving off an air of superiority. But that's precisely why he's so trusted. Reflecting now, I see how essential Alex is to the company's success by being present on the ground.
I heard you only graduated high school. Was that a lie?
Sarah, now pale, stammered out her question, barely getting the words out.
It's not a lie. My highest level of education really is high school. I did attend college, but in my third year, my dad, who was the previous president, passed away due to illness. My mom took over as president, but I felt the need to learn the business quickly. So I dropped out and began working on the ground. After several years of factory work, I became a factory manager and then president just before we got married.
Indeed, while Alex is a president now, he didn't achieve his position overnight. He spent years working his way up from the bottom. That's why he knows the operations inside and out and has earned the trust of his employees. And it's also why, having worked as a professional since he was young and risen to leadership, he's able to show such generosity and understanding to others.
So, Samantha and Alex aren't actually poor, even though you've always dressed so plainly?
Sarah still seemed intent on labeling us as poor. Sarah, it's not right to judge people based on their appearance or education. When I said this, Sarah couldn't come up with a retort. Then Brian, who had been silent by Sarah's side, suddenly spoke up as if something had occurred to him.
Wait a minute. Johnson Foods. Isn't that the parent company of the one I work for?
As he said this, his face turned pale. His white tuxedo and now ghostly pale face made him look almost like a ghost. Sarah began to panic as well.
Wait, hold on. Didn't we invite a lot of your bosses from your company to the wedding today?
Just then, a man approached us.
Hi, isn't this Alex?
As he spoke, a man approached us. He was in his 50s, wearing a well-tailored suit, and exuding an air of sophistication. It appeared he was Brian's boss, Steve.
Alex, what brings you here today?
I came to attend Sarah's wedding, but I was told there were no seats available for a high school graduate who works at a factory. So I thought I'd just offer my congratulations and leave.
I see. That's unfortunate. You know, Brian insisted that I attend today, but in fact, I'm also a high school graduate.
Upon hearing this, Brian's face lost even more color, if that was possible.
It seems I should leave as well. You see, our company wouldn't exist without the employees working in the factories. Factory workers are essentially the engine of the business. To think we had someone who would insult them among our employees.
With that, Steve turned his back on Sarah and Brian. Seeing this, other employees from Brian's company began hurriedly gathering their things to leave. In the face of this unexpected turn of events, Sarah cried out.
Wait, everyone! Don't go! At least leave your wedding gifts.
Well, Sarah, congratulations on your wedding. We'll be leaving now. And so, Alex and I decided not to stay for the ceremony and left. As for how Sarah and Brian's wedding turned out, the reception was reportedly a somber affair, resembling a funeral more than a celebration. Brian was reassigned from his prestigious sales role to a support position working under factory staff. Apparently, the move hurt his pride as a prestigious university graduate, and he quit shortly after the transfer. He likely intended to leverage his academic background to find a new job. However, many of Brian's prestigious university acquaintances attended the reception, and his rude behavior became widely shared as a joke. As a result, not only did he fail to secure a new job, but he also ended up becoming a recluse at home. Sarah's life, which had depended on Brian's income as a high-achieving college graduate, took a dramatic turn. The couple had purchased a luxury condo with a mortgage for their newlywed life and furnished it with brand-name items, all on credit. With both of them now jobless, they couldn't possibly keep up with the loan payments. Brian's family, who had been described as elites, also distanced themselves from the couple after the humiliation they faced at the wedding, leaving them with no support. As a result, they had to sell their luxury condo at a low price, leaving them with a significant amount of unpaid mortgage debt, and now they live in a cheap apartment. Sarah sought financial help from her parents, but they hadn't forgiven her for her disrespectful behavior toward Alex and me, and they refused outright. From the peak of happiness, Sarah and Brian had fallen into the depths of despair. Sarah had to take over providing for their household in place of reclusive Brian, and now seems to be working hard labor at a small factory near their apartment. When I visited her once flashy makeup was nowhere to be seen. She seemed to lack the energy for it. It was pitiful to see her being scolded by what appeared to be a senior colleague at the factory. A year later, Alex and I welcomed a beautiful baby boy. My parents were thrilled about the birth of their first grandchild. Alex, as busy as ever managing his duties as the president while working at the factory, made time to take care of the baby whenever possible. Though he never mentioned being particularly fond of children, it was clear he was becoming a very hands-on dad. There was another significant change in our lives besides the arrival of our son. The products manufactured at Alex's food factory had gained popularity overseas for their quality and flavor. prompting the company's expansion into the international market. Now, our family has relocated to Singapore. Alex was so dedicated to quality control that he visited the factory every day. With it being the company's first overseas expansion, Alex wanted to personally ensure everything was in order, so he traveled to the site himself. The person entrusted with managing this first overseas factory was a senior employee with over 30 years of service. In fact, he also started his career as a high school graduate, working his way up in the factory. Alex has great trust in this factory manager, and soon our family planned to return to the US. The reason? I'm expecting another baby. Life is long, and there are sure to be many challenges ahead. But I refuse to let myself be consumed by trivial matters like academic backgrounds or social status. As long as I have Alex, our children, and our loving family, I know we can overcome anything together.